Alright, so in this video we're checking out this ultralight 2-inch Cinewhoop that I made basically because one of my Patreons bet me that I wouldn't be able to do it. And specifically, he wanted a 2-inch Cinewhoop with DJI. You see the naked vista in the back there, under 50 grams. Obviously, being a Cinewhoop, you want to be able to carry at least a naked GoPro or a Go 2. And so this is obviously set up for a Go 2. It's actually about 47 grams. And the other component of the bet was make the all-up weight with the battery and the camera under 100 grams, which this does. And so let me just go ahead and show you the numbers, because I'm sure you guys aren't even believing it yet. So this is the drone weight at 47.31 grams. And then we'll throw on, this is a 3S 300 milliamp hour. And then with the battery, it's 72.96. And then with the Go 2, it is 99.6-ish grams. So under 100 grams, all up weight, flying weight right here. So if you're wondering where this thing came from, this is actually the, I think it's the UR85 HD. Which I had sitting around for a while because I crashed it and I broke the turtle camera that was on there for the HD video, so I wasn't using it. And so obviously it comes like this normally with it not being inverted, and the canopies on top here with the turtle, I got rid of that. Still the same Crazy Happy Metal board in there, and then I inverted it. Obviously, I flipped the props over as well. Same 1102 9000 kV motors and flight controller. I did add a Express LRS receiver. I think it's a Happy Metal EP2 with the SMD antenna. Soldered on a naked vista, so you can see there, with a minimal whip antenna. And then for the camera, I went with the Caddx Polar Nano, which is currently the lightest camera for DJI. And then I got rid of the battery tray because I wanted to use a bigger battery, and I'm just using this rubber band here to hold the battery in place. So obviously this is the original battery that came with the UR85, the 3S300. I have a ton of these sitting around. This just goes in there, and then on this one I get a pretty short flight time, 2.5 minutes. And then if you want a longer flight time, go with the 3S520, closer to 4-minute flight times on the 3S520. And that's the reason I cut the battery tray off of there, so that I could use the bigger battery. But of course, if you go with the bigger battery, you're going to go over 100 grams. So sticking with the lighter battery, it's actually much more agile, and you don't have to use as much throttle to fly around. I obviously created this little print here, and for holding the camera, just holds in there with one single screw. And you can see here in the frame, there's an extra mount hole there. You can see there as well. There's actually 4 of them, and I just use one of those for a self-tapping screw to hold the camera in place, and just very easy, just pops in place. And it's a little wobbly, but the stabilization on the Go 2 is so amazing that you don't really see any of the shakes. Although I think on the camera here, on the FPV camera, the hot glue that I put in here, it's okay, it holds in place. But because this frame is so flexy, in bright sunny conditions you can see a fair amount of jello in the FPV feed, but it doesn't show up in the Go 2 footage if you use an ND filter. So indoors you don't see any jello at all. But yeah, for if you want to use something like this, indoors, smaller spaces, it obviously doesn't do that great in the wind. Although you see there's like some footage from the park that I'm flying. It's like there's a 15-mile-an-hour wind, and it's actually doing pretty well. And I could actually negotiate some of those gaps in some of those little exercise machines. But yeah, it flies pretty decent for the weight. And although the flight time isn't great, if you want to get under 100 grams, then you have to sacrifice flight time, put a smaller battery in. There's really no way around that. But yeah, someone said that this couldn't be done, and I was like, well, yeah, I'll give it a try. It was pretty hard to find a setup that would work, because I think he was trying this with the Beta 85 2-inch frame, which is a lot heavier and bigger motors. So if you go with a I think those had 1105 motors, are way heavier than these 1102 motors. But of course, when you go to these smaller motors, you're sacrificing flight time and also performance, so definitely not a lot of power. But for Cinewhooping, totally fine, just cruising around, slow speeds, you can get pretty decent footage. So for those of you guys that are in places where you have to fly things under 100 grams for whatever, I guess he had some sort of restriction that has locality, give this one a try. There's not a whole lot of these left. I think they're clearing these out. They're on clearance for like about $100. And give it a try. I'll put the link to the video on how I flipped over this stuff here. I did several videos of this on this kind of inverting these whoops and rotating the board and all that kind of stuff, because it is inverted and it's rotated 90 degrees. So I can put the battery sideways. I will link that video as well. I did that to the Meteor 65 like a year and a half ago. And I had a discussion in there about how to do that technically in terms of the motor, changing the motor resources, remapping the motor resources, and changing motor direction, board orientation, all that stuff is in that video. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this guy. Yeah, I think I'm going to be keeping this one around for a while. It's kind of interesting that this was kind of sitting around collecting dust. I wasn't sure what to do with it because obviously the turtle was broken. And so I was like, well, I have a little project for this, and it didn't take too long to put this together. Obviously, it's very fiddly to do all the wiring, especially here. I actually covered up this part of the board for the where all the wires are connected to. But if you're very careful and you have good soldering skills, it's not super difficult. And obviously, I put a piece of foam here because you don't want to land on the flight controller, although there are these little standoffs there that lift it off the ground, and also it raises the props off the ground a little bit. So if you're on a flat surface, I have no problems taking off. If you're on carpet, it does rub a little bit. And obviously, if you don't want to take this off in grass, that's a non-starter because you're going to be cutting grass to take off. But yeah, I'm using dental floss here to hold on the Naked Vista. I did the same thing on my 3-inch ultralight over here. It's basically I use all the same techniques to do that. And this one here is 141 grams with the Hero 7 and the 2S520 and a GPS. So I always say bigger is better, especially even though this is pretty light. This has a longer flight time as well. So I'll link that video as well if you want to check it out. There's obviously this went through 3 iterations already. And I'll link all those videos as well in the description if you're curious. But yeah, this is pretty cool for indoors. Anyway, if you guys are wondering why go with the Go 2 instead of the Naked GoPro, there's additional components like the tray and the vibration dampening that you're going to need for the Naked GoPro that actually makes the weight heavier, and I put it all in together. It ended up being about 105 grams, so I couldn't get under 100 grams. That's why I wanted the Go 2. And I went with this lighter print here. It's sort of minimalistic. And then the ND filters are also lighter as well. And by the way, if you use the link in the video description to get the Go 2, you can get the ND filters for free as well as additional lens guards. And I think right now it's on sale for like $30 off, I believe, as well. So you're actually getting it for like $270 for the camera, the lens guards, and the ND filters, which is a really good deal right now. So check out that link down in the video description if you guys want to check out a Go 2 with a pretty good discount and this nice little setup here. Obviously, this is DIY. You got to put this together yourself. If any questions, let me know. Here's the flight footage, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.